Good evening, everybody. Meteorologist Seth Bohnhoff here, tracking some severe weather that's about to enter our area within just a few minutes. Before I get too deep into what's going on, I just always like to check to make sure that you guys can hear me and that the audio is all fine and good. We'll wait on that here for just a moment. But as you can see, if you can hear me already, we've got plenty of severe weather on its way into the area. It's all technically north of our viewing area here at the moment, but those warnings are so far out in advance that we definitely need to get on top of things as soon as we can. And that includes a tornado warning just off to our northwest. So portions of McLean County need to definitely be paying attention here over the next several minutes as we've got ourselves a line of storms moving in. So I've got a confirmation that people can hear me, which is good. So we're going to go ahead and move on here with what we know at the moment. Obviously, as you can see, a pretty extensive line of severe thunderstorms is about to kind of cross over I-55 here before too long, and that's kind of what we're watching at the moment. We've got warnings well downstream of everything here, even into Livingston County. That's officially the only warning we have in the area, but obviously things are ramping up pretty quickly here, so wanted to get on top of things and make sure that you guys are aware of what's going on. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, we are going to immediately check our velocity here to see kind of what's going on within this line of storms. And I got to make sure I know which radar I'm looking at. So that's the Chicago one. Let's take a look at the Lincoln one. It's probably our best bet as to what's going on. The bright colors obviously indicate some stronger winds. These storms at one point were warned for up to 70-mile-an-hour gusts. Not to say they can't do that anymore, but they've been kind of downgraded to that 60-mile-an-hour gust range. It's in particular this little area right here inside the tornado warning box, about to kind of cross over parts of I-39. Out in that direction, kind of between El Paso, even up to Bennington and that way. So we are kind of watching that little area of potential circulation as we get deeper into the night here. So we will keep an eye on that, as that is very soon to enter our area. And we'll kind of keep track of this thing. Very broad circulation you can see in there, kind of some of that bright green next to some of these reds in here. So that's exactly what would have prompted that warning. So that is heading southeast at pretty good speed. I'm going to drop the tag in on this. I believe at last check, these were moving at close to 60 miles an hour. This particular warning is warned for 40 miles an hour, kind of directly southeast here. So let's just take exactly where we're looking at in that warning and kind of play that out over about the next hour or so, just to see where that storm is heading. We'll calculate things here at 40 miles an hour. So we're going to grab it from right there and move it this direction. And if it kind of keeps up the pace that it's at, we'll just send it out here over the next 35 minutes or so. So those are some of the potential locations in the path of this thing over the next 35 minutes. So if you see your town or city name on that black box there, definitely be prepared within the next half hour to potentially seek some shelter here from a storm that is tornado warned. And that includes Woodford, even into El Paso, and eventually we kind of get into the Gridley area there. So anyone on that chart, and that'll eventually include Lexington, closer to 1230. Definitely want to be getting prepared in case things go south there and that warning persists as it enters on into McLean County. On top of all that, we do have some just gusty conditions in general that we are kind of keeping an eye on here. I'm going to flip things back over to reflectivity just so you can kind of get a grip of what's going on. So we're going to zoom back on up here to the far northwest again. There probably isn't very many drops of rain at all in the area right now, but there's so many gusts just out ahead of this thing that they have warned these well in advance. I believe these warnings are set to expire at 12:30, so still got about a half hour to go underneath those. But of particular concern at the moment is that tornado warning that may or may not continue on into parts of our viewing area here before too long. And that is currently the main concern here. Let's just kind of take a peek inside at some of these velocity readings. We're kind of in that little middle ground with some of these radars, so we're looking pretty high up. We just kind of look inside and kind of drop a tag in the wind profiles up there, kind of getting that 55-ish mile-an-hour gust. Again, we're looking a little high up there, but things are certainly windy all along these lines. If you heard me talk on some of the newscasts tonight, anytime you start to get these lines that kind of start to bow out a little bit, that's when you can tell those winds are really kind of surging out of these storms. And every now and then a certain situation occurs where these winds interact a certain way. You can even get an embedded rotation within some of these storms, as we are seeing right now. So we are kind of anxiously keeping an eye on things. What's weird is that, again, this isn't technically in the area just yet, but it is knocking on our doorstep there. And if you are a night owl, such as myself sometimes, you're probably out there on social media anyway, and definitely want to stay on top of things here, as this is usually a time of night on a Sunday night where people are getting ready for the work week ahead. So hopefully they were listening to some of our warnings there on the late newscast here to just kind of keep an eye on things. Hopefully they have a way of receiving warnings there, so that way you can stay on top of things as we head into the night. I'm even going to try this. I don't do this very often. I'm going to just pop up on my screen and see if it works. You can sign up for Weather Call right here. You can scan the code down there, or just click on the link. It's $12 a year. It's built for situations just like this, where it's nighttime, you need something to wake you up. This will give you a call. This will give you a text, whatever you decide to put it for your location. And just like magic, you can have warnings sent to your phone. And those can be the kind of things that could wake you up in the night in such a situation like this. So definitely a handy tool that definitely recommend clicking on that or scanning the code down there in case you want to be a part of that and stay on top of things. Of course, your classic weather radio also does the trick as well. That's very helpful for situations just like this, where you want to try to sleep. You know the storms are going to come at some point, but you want to try to get a few Z's in before that happens. This will get you right up and stirring in the night there, so that way you can stay on top of things. All right, let's just kind of check in and see what's going on here. These storms, we're moving very, very quickly, maybe start to slow down just a little bit, but definitely worth paying attention to here. And one thing I do want to bring up real quick, I'm sure a lot of you may have just gotten this on your phone. Maybe it just happened on your weather call out there just a moment ago. The severe thunderstorm watch was expanded by quite a bit. And I believe, yes, we've got it updated now. Any of these counties in pink, this goes until 4 a.m. So it could be a little bit of a longer night here for a few of us. The main concern is going to be the strong wind gusts. That's why this isn't a tornado watch. The tornado is kind of the anomaly in all this. It's possible, but it's really not the thing that we are watching these storms for. The main thing will be 60 to potentially 70-mile-an-hour gusts. I think we're kind of exiting the time frame for those 70-mile-an-hour gusts, and now we have that tornado warning starting to spread into the actual part of the viewing area. And this is going for the Pontiac region. So what we'll do, it's late enough in the night. I believe some of our nighttime programming is running. I've got one of my directors in here with us. Charlotte, what do you say we probably go ahead and call the hub? We can probably jump on CBS for this, because I think as this starts to move on in, we probably want to get on top of things here as soon as we can. So just kind of bear with us, everybody. I'm going to try to get my stuff collected here, so that way we can go on air and cover this thing, as it's deep enough in the nights, hopefully not interrupting any programming that people want to stay on top of. But if someone's just now getting woken up in the middle of the night, we want to make sure they have a way of staying on top of things here. So I'm going to be scrambling around for just a moment while we get things ready. I'll let you kind of take a peek at the radar there for just a moment. But we do have a tornado warning now in effect for Livingston County. That does include the Pontiac area there, as these storms are starting to line up in just a way to where we're starting to get a little bit of that rotation into the area. So we definitely want to stay on top of things here and be proactive rather than reactive. So that's exactly what we are going to do here. And again, please just bear with me while I get some things kind of set up. And while my director gives the proper people a call there, so we can hop on and stay on top of things here and make sure that we are good to go. So I'm kind of on standby mode, listening to whatever she says and whenever we can get on there. I'm going to pop up the sky cams real quick. We're just going to go ahead and take a look up there in Pontiac and see what's going on. Obviously, we won't be able to see anything just yet at the moment, but we can see in the distance, of course, the lightning starting to come in there. And is going to be not going to be too long before this starts to move into the greater part of Livingston County. Again, tornado warning in effect for Livingston County. This will be in effect until it appears could be around the Pontiac area around 12:15, so just after midnight here. This warning is going to go until 12:30, so this will be over the next 22 minutes. So we definitely want to keep an eye on that. I don't know if you can hear me, Charlotte, but whenever we are good to hop on, please just let me know there, so that way I can appropriately prepare there for the delivery as we get on to CBS. So just kind of in that middle ground here at the moment, as we are soon to hop on air and try to cover this thing as this tornado warning is now finally starting to enter our viewing area. So that was the view in Pontiac. Not seeing much, of course, just yet. because that warning is just off, or excuse me, the main storm just now getting ready to enter the area. And we're going to freeze things here and just kind of paying attention to this little feature in here. As you kind of start to see just some bends here in this line, that's usually indicative that there's some winds that are starting to change direction there. And we want to just kind of take a further look at that. So we will open up our velocity image here, and you can start to see those colors contrasting themselves a little bit. Anytime you see that activity, you want to stay on top of it there by definitely dropping those tornado warnings. So that is the exact area we're watching here right now. Tornado warning issued for Livingston County over the next roughly 20 minutes or so. And this will be heading potentially into the Pontiac region at some point. We're just going to kind of play things out a little bit. I'm going to have to play with my system just a little to see how this is moving. So bear with me for just a moment while I get that set up. And we'll play that out so we can kind of see the circulation moving right about in this general vicinity in here. So this kind of looks like it's making a little bit of a east-southeastern track. So this might be more of an Odell, Cayuga problem than it is a Pontiac problem, but we want to pay attention to how this will evolve over time. The nature of these kind of tornadoes within these lines is very much so sporadic. Things can look really good for a second, then look really flat, then kind of pulse in and out in that nature. Regardless of whether or not tornado ends up dropping out of this, we will still have to worry about gusts between 60, maybe 65 miles an hour. So heads up Pontiac area, just anywhere along I-55 between Pontiac and Dwight, we do have some rotation that is starting to dive into your part of the area. And we are trying to stay on top of things here. And I believe I can see in the corner that we are now up here on CBS. We have a tornado warning issued for parts of Livingston County here. And that is why we are hopping on the air tonight. We're kind of deep into the night there. Don't want to be interrupting anything that you may have been watching, but this is enough of an issue deep into the night where people need to be aware of what's going on here. So again, tornado warning issued for Livingston County. This goes until 12:30 this evening. And what we have up here right now is our velocity product. Essentially what I'm showing you is where that rotation is. Looks like it exited the Streeter area not too long ago, kind of looking right here, maybe in the Blackstone region. This kind of has an east-southeast trajectory to it. So this eventually could be heading towards the Odell area, maybe south of Dwight. So if you are in those areas, be seeking shelter here immediately, as this storm is capable of producing a tornado. Thus the warning that has been dropped out. It's a very broad warning. There's lots of places that may not particularly have to worry about this warning. I would say kind of anywhere on the west side of the county there kind of doesn't look like there's too much activity going on here. There's another warning just off to the west that we're kind of keeping track of as well. So things can get a little messy within these linear storm systems, but there's enough evidence right now to show that there is at least that rotation that we need to be tracking here as these storms have officially gone tornado warned. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up the Pontiac camera here real quick. We're not going to be seeing too much there in the distance, but this is kind of the best view we have of any sort of storm activity. Again, it's well to the northwest of Pontiac still, but we're going to kind of keep an eye on this thing in the distance to see what we can see. Obviously, these nighttime storms, you cannot see as much. So we're kind of relying on that lightning to kind of light up the sky a little bit and maybe give us a little definition into the sky as to what is going on. So again, if you're just now joining us, there's been a tornado warning issued for parts of Livingston County. This is in effect until 12:30 tonight. Along a line of expanding severe thunderstorms, just kind of going into the overview here. Yes, we have the tornado warning, but we have got just this whole line of storms capable of 60, maybe 65-mile-an-hour gusts, and that has prompted an expansion of our severe thunderstorm watch as well. And very briefly, I don't think this threat will last for too long, but we're going to see that tornado threat here for just a little while, as we're seeing in northwestern Livingston County right now. So we're going to freeze things and just kind of take check of what's going on. You can see we just have this little bit of a notch starting to form right here just north of Amity, I believe. And we're just keeping track of where this is heading. Again, kind of got east-southeast trajectory to it, kind of just broadly between Amity, even up there into the Blackstone area. That's kind of where the colors are the most tight. So again, kind of watching Odell, potentially south of Dwight. I'm going to put this in motion here just so you can kind of follow the path of this, and we'll see exactly where it's heading. So we're just going to loop it like this. And you can kind of see where this rotation is right now. Again, kind of got that little bit of a east-southeast hook to it. So we're tracking it as it moves into really northern Livingston County. So this is very much so on the fringe of our area. But anybody that was up tonight and got that tornado warning alert on their phone, we wanted to be up here on television in case you were, again, in case that exact situation happened. So that way we could keep you covered. So places like Nevada, Odell, Dwight, even Loretto at some point need to keep an eye. This is where your rotation is, maybe just southeast of Blackstone there. And again, things are a little messy within these lines. Things can change very quickly, but we are keeping a close eye on that. Got a few people here on our live stream as well, just kind of asking for certain locations. Pontiac right now, it doesn't look like this rotation's heading towards you, and the warning is just a pretty broad one. So we'll kind of watch. Things are probably going to get very windy there in just a moment. But as far as where the exact circulation is, I think we're really concentrated just here in the northern part of the county right now. So we are watching that and also taking into account that gusts will be between 60 and maybe 65 miles an hour as this line moves on through. And we're just kind of taking a look to see if there's been any sort of reports on this thing. And it doesn't look like there has been anything just yet. But we will continue to monitor that. Obviously, we don't want to take these tornado warnings lightly, especially this time of the night, just past midnight here in central Illinois. And we want to be able to kind of track this stuff as it moves on through. I'm going to just kind of freeze this so that way it'll just periodically update. Again, this isn't the most classic rotation you've ever seen. We've seen some much more slam dunk signatures than this before, but you can just kind of see that broad rotation again, kind of with that east-southeast movement to it. And I'm kind of looking at some other stuff here in the corner to make sure that we are staying on top of whatever we need to be here with this warning. There does not appear to be any kind of major signatures that would suggest that we have anything actively ongoing right now, but we are trying our best to just stay on top of whatever is going on here. And we are going to track this thing until it kind of moves safely out of the area. Again, we're kind of on the edge of the area. So we're just trying to stay proactive here as opposed to be reactive. And this is really the main storm that we're watching right now. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of reset things here real briefly. Then we're going to hone in back on this tornado warning. So this is the complex of storms that we are seeing right now. The warnings are kind of disappearing a little bit. These storms overnight tonight are going to be very sporadic in nature, as mentioned earlier. Things can look really good for a moment, and they can kind of weaken up a little bit, but it's enough to really get us paying attention. So really, it's this tornado warning that's the only thing immediately impacting the area, but obviously heading towards a little bit of a populated area there in Pontiac, and you can really start to see, again, kind of that notch forming there. So this is kind of the area of interest as we continue ahead there, and we'll flip right back to our velocity picture. And we should be able to see, again, that broad rotation right around this general area here. Again, it's not the greatest signature we've ever seen, but it is something that definitely warrants the warning. So again, this is heading towards the Odell, Loretto, maybe even the Sonneman and Emmington area here at some point. Again, moving southeast at about 40 miles an hour. So let's just kind of track this thing out here real fast. Drag our little tool here and just kind of move it ahead. Kind of the rough path of that kind of gives us a little bit of a cone of uncertainty as to where this is going. Odell, this could be there within possibly the next 10 minutes. Out there in Loretto, this could be there within about the next 15 minutes or so. Even out there into the Sonneman area within the next 20 or so minutes. So again, if you are in this warning and in particular in the path of this cone, you want to be seeking shelter there in your tornado safe spot immediately. Get as low as you can. If you got a basement, that's the best place to be. Storm cellar, of course, as well. But any kind of interior part of the house there will do good if that's all you have. We're starting to see maybe a little bit of a tightening there in that velocity couplet. So you're starting to see maybe a little bit of that tan peeking into the picture and some of those bright greens next to it. That means that our rotation could possibly be tightening up here a little bit. So really watching with great interest as this thing moves into the Odell and maybe Cayuga area. Again, got that southeastern movement to it. So if your town name is visible on the screen right now, get down into your tornado shelter. Again, that's Odell, Cayuga, even into parts of Loretto as well. So we're keeping an eye on this as it moves through and also watching some severe thunderstorm warnings pop up to the west. Obviously, those are impactful as well, but it's not the priority here at the moment. Again, just want to stress this looks like it's missing the Pontiac area. This is going to be mainly for the northern part of the county up there. and just kind of trying to get our bearings straight here because there's a lot of activity going on even outside of this tornado warning. But obviously, this is the main thing that we are tracking right now. And I'm going to just kind of scroll through all my tools, make sure that we're not missing anything here, just kind of checking to make sure there's no tornado debris signature. I mean, you're starting to see some of these colors in here. I'm not 100% certain if that's anything conclusive there, but you can definitely tell on the velocity image that there is enough going on to pay attention to this thing, and maybe starting to shrink that couplet just a little bit. So we'll kind of watch and see how this plays out. This is set to expire at around 12:30. So we'll kind of keep an eye on what the Weather Service is saying and see what they think moving forward. But at least for the moment, they're continuing that warning. Also, just looking elsewhere, severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for parts of northern McLean County. And this, with that red outline there, typically indicates that there is also a tornado possible tag within this polygon. So no tornado warning yet, but this is kind of just the step below that where they're saying keep an eye on the severe thunderstorm. It could be capable of producing a tornado at some point. So they're kind of watching that with interest as this line moves down that direction as well. But we do have the main warning up here in northern Livingston County. Again, that kind of broadish rotation right here, just kind of directly west of Odell, moving southeast. So this might kind of split the gap between Odell and Cayuga. Again, if you are in that part of the area, be seeking shelter right now, as this thing has some movement to it, 40 miles an hour. That's pretty standard stuff, but this thing will get there in no time at all. So definitely be in your tornado safe spots here immediately. Again, that could just be, if it's the only thing you have, just the most interior room in the house, usually a bathroom. Just kind of get low, cover yourself up, and kind of ride this thing out as it moves on through. So we're still kind of tracking whatever we might be seeing. I'm trying to see on my Pontiac camera here because that might give me a good shot straight up into that storm. I'm just going to kind of briefly look at that for just a moment, and you'll be able to see it as well. The lightning kind of illuminates the background just a little bit, and we might be able to get some sort of definition into this storm, just kind of relying on that lightning to help us out here. Also keeping track of the radar here on my other monitor, so I'm not just completely blind by looking at this sky cam here. Seeing things light up just a little bit. Again, got to take advantage while you can see it. There's definitely some storm structure there in the background, but again, really relying on any sort of lightning to help me out here. So I'll keep an eye on that in the corner there. I've got it behind me, and I'll continue to watch that, but we'll go right back to our radar here since that's the most pressing thing here at the moment. Again, honing in on our location. This is up in northern Livingston County. Again, for the most part, this is outside of the main portion of the area, but any folks up there that watch us, this is definitely something to be reacting to right now. We'll dive in again and look at our velocity and get that pulled up here. And you can see kind of where that rotation might be ongoing just west of Odell there. We are tracking that. And then, yes, I thought that might be, there could have been power flashes there in Pontiac. So that's definitely a concern in the Pontiac area. I'm kind of just watching there on the side. I thought that looked weird for a moment. I wasn't sure if that was just lightning that I missed, but those certainly looked like power flashes to me on the Pontiac camera. So Pontiac, hunker down here. That rotation might not be showing up directly over you, but you can still see some strong winds. Maybe we do have something getting ready to develop here in just a moment. So if you are in Pontiac, kind of out in that direction, please be getting to your tornado safe spot right now. Anybody along 116 there and just kind of around the I-55 region up here in Livingston County, we might be having a situation here where we might be seeing either some strong winds or maybe some sort of rotation getting ready to pass through town there. So again, we're just watching our sky cam that showed what appeared to be power flashes there just a moment ago. And we're trying our best to pay attention to what's going on there to make sure that we don't miss anything that might be visible there on our camera. And again, the lightning could really help us out here by showing that definition in the background. So I'm going to keep a very close eye on that. I'm also trying to manage things on radar over here on my right. But at the moment, it appears there could be at least one circulation within Livingston County, if not potentially another getting ready to kind of move through parts of Livingston County there. So things really starting to pick up on our Pontiac camera. You can see the camera starting to bob up and down. And that rotation still going strong northwest of Odell right now. And just watching as this main core of the storm starts to push through Pontiac. You can see the trees starting to blow a little bit. Nothing crazy just yet, but we saw what appeared to be power flashes not too long ago here on our Pontiac camera. So anybody there in town, be getting into your shelters right now. Even if there is not a tornado on the ground, you want to treat it as if there is one, because things can happen very, very quickly, especially in these linear storms where things can just really, really change in an instant there. So we are tracking on the Pontiac camera as that storm really starts to take shape in the area right now. So we will keep an eye on that. Also keeping an eye on radar here on the side. I'll keep an eye on that camera here for just a moment. I'm going to pull up radar again real briefly and just make sure that we're watching things in the corner there. But again, tornado warning now across kind of the central part of Livingston County. I think the main area of concern is up in this direction there, kind of where that notch is. But across the whole county, we're certainly seeing some strong winds right now, maybe 60 to 65 mile an hour gusts. And you just kind of see these colors, just kind of this green stripe here, and just kind of watching anywhere up and down that wind signature to see if there is potentially any kind of rotation developing in there. And as mentioned, these things kind of look good for a moment, then they can kind of change really quickly. And I'm going to put up Pontiac's camera real quick as things are really starting to get intense there. You can see camera really starting to bob up and down, things getting a little crazy there in town as we are about to take a direct hit here from the storm. Kind of the southern edge of where we suspect the rotation might be. So anybody there in town right now, again, make sure that you are away from any exterior walls or windows there. Treat it as if this is again, you're under a tornado warning for a reason there, so treat it as if there could be one out there. And, of course, just be prepared for those gusts 60 to 65 miles an hour, and we're seeing every bit of that as this camera really starts to bob around. A lot of our cameras are very, very stationary in nature, so when you start to see them rattling around like this, you know there's some very strong winds sweeping into town. So we are going to keep track of this thing as it is really starting to make things blow around there in Pontiac, and continuing to kind of keep tabs on our info here at the National Weather Service. They do not have any additional information just yet as far as anything that they can confirm, but we are actively keeping an eye on our conversation with them as we can see things really picking up there again in Pontiac. As we speak here, just getting close to 12:30. So in theory, this warning will be set to expire soon, but I'm willing to guess they're going to at least continue a tornado possible tag on this thing. As we zoom in some more to see where that active rotation is, should be right here just west of Odell when we flip things onto our velocity here. And yes, we're still seeing that and kind of see that surge of wind kind of pushing out there, maybe kind of interacting with the winds heading in a different direction to cause some rotation. That might just be south of Odell right now, potentially heading into the Sonneman area. You might not be in the warning at the moment, but I'm willing to guess they're going to expand at least a severe thunderstorm warning that direction here before too long. If not, they're going to continue this tornado warning into the eastern half of the county. And potentially this becomes a problem for northern Ford County at some point as well. Just kind of looking at the motion of this thing. Again, we'll put it in motion real quickly here. And you kind of see where exactly that rotation is heading. And again, it's kind of got that more of a southeast movement now, a pure southeast movement. So really keep an eye here in Sonneman, as that's kind of the area of interest there along this green line, kind of on the north side of it. That is particularly the area that we are watching with the greatest concern for maybe some more rotation as this thing continues to move to the southeast. Again, this warning set to expire really soon, but actively keeping an eye on an expansion of this thing on the southeast side. And just kind of making sure we're keeping track of any sort of notes that might be in some of these warnings. It doesn't appear there's anything new in there just yet. Again, this thing's picked up a little speed, says now moving at 50 miles an hour. So the main part of the storm will move through very quickly. But that also means if you're not in the path just yet and you're somewhere down the line, it's going to get there before you know it. So please be in your tornado safe spot if you are kind of downstream of this thing. Again, moving at 50 miles an hour. So let's just go ahead and see what places might be in line for that. Grab it right there where that area of interest is. Kind of just move it to the southeast. So over the next 30 minutes or so, these places need to get ready to go out there into the Owego area. Sonneman, again, right around 12:36. Chatsworth potentially there at just after 1:45 a.m. And we're starting to see an expansion of our warnings now. So let's just kind of take stock on what we have here. Again, they expanded the severe thunderstorm warnings. They're just starting to outline whole counties at this point, and that's probably not a bad idea with the nature of how strong these gusts can be. And again, kind of keep an eye on the Pontiac camera where things are getting really gusty, but severe thunderstorm warnings have been expanded. All of Ford County is in that warning. About the northwestern 2/3 of Iroquois County is in this warning now. Interestingly enough, they do not have any tornado possible tag on there. So they doesn't appear they have any fear of things continuing on into Ford County, maybe even eastern Livingston County, but we still have just a little bit of evidence there. As you can see, the colors are becoming a little less bright, but as long as we kind of have that contrast there, that's what we're really going to pay attention to as we continue to move on here. So we'll see when 12:30 hits here, which will just be in about 30 or so seconds, if they kind of drop that warning and we see things continue to trend down, we might kind of just relax a little bit here with I shouldn't say relax. We're just going to kind of take things minute by minute here to see how this thing continues over time. Again, Sonneman area, Chatsworth, maybe even Fairbury. You want to be in your shelters right now, your storm shelters, anywhere underground, basement if you have it, storm shelter if you have it, interior room of your house is the best place to be as well if you do not have anything underground. As continuing to watch maybe just a little bit of circulation make its way to the southeast. So there goes the tornado warning. We'll kind of see how everything else is handled here over the next couple of minutes, and we'll just kind of react through that. Again, just got done with a tornado warning that was in the area, but you can still see potentially a spot of interest getting ready to enter into Sonneman. So if you are in Sonneman or anywhere around there, again, near Charlotte, Pleasant Ridge, Cullum there, you definitely want to be seeking shelter any minute now, because this thing is heading your direction. Even if there's not any kind of active tornado in there, there's going to be some very gusty conditions, as you saw earlier on the sky cam. Again, trying to keep an eye on any info that people might have. We do not have any confirmations with anything just yet. Trying to see if anyone is adding anything in here. So it does not look like anything is happening just yet there. Don't have any kind of reports in there. Again, just want to iterate, this is not a confirmed tornado. In fact, it's not warned at all anymore, but we're just kind of watching in general this little area of kind of broad circulation. It's come down a little bit in the last few scans. As you can see, things not quite as vibrant as what they were. That could also just be the fact that it's kind of moving away from the radar a little bit, and the fact that we're kind of switching radars here as we continue to the east. I believe we're looking at Chicago's now. So that's the view of the velocity from the Chicago radar. Again, that might be our best bet right now, because Lincoln and I think the Quad Cities one's just a little too far. So that's probably the one we're going to ride with here for a little while. Again, things kind of come down just a little bit, but still worth watching. They have not continued the tornado warning, it doesn't look like. So we're just going to continue to keep track of this thing as it moves on through. I'm going to give this about another couple minutes. If there is no other kind of tag on here on the severe thunderstorms as far as any sort of tornado possible tag, I think we're going to hop off of CBS here and probably just keep things going on the live stream. Again, we'll be on this live stream for as long as there is active severe weather. We usually reserve hopping on TV for kind of tornado warnings, especially in your populated areas such as Pontiac there just a moment ago, and especially that we're deep into the nights. We're kind of getting into that nighttime programming there. So we'll kind of watch this and see how it's handled over the next couple of radar scans. But overall, the concern is not quite as high as what it once was, but it's still enough going on there to where, again, Sonneman and the Cullum area, you definitely want to be seeking shelter there in case this thing kind of ramps itself up again. Again, as mentioned earlier, we kind of have that haphazard up and down kind of those pulses that we see where things look really good for a moment and they kind of go down, and that does not mean that they are done for there. So that is going to be something we continue to watch as we progress things out here. I think there's enough going on. We're just going to kind of stick to this for a little bit. Again, kind of a lot of interaction going on here, maybe even a little bit of a boundary that's kind of trying to push down southwest of this too. So right there in Sonneman, I think that's where your activity is happening right now. We're going to have to kind of watch this with pretty close eye over the next several minutes for potential increase in activity here with this rotation. Again, it doesn't look as good as it did at one point. That does not mean things cannot continue to pick up. What I want to do real quick is just kind of take a look at some other places that are kind of receiving severe thunderstorm impacts right now. We're kind of getting on the edge of our radars here, so just want to keep things consistent. You can see where the gust front's kind of pushing out here into parts of northern McLean County and right over central Livingston County. And just going to take a quick peek here at the Pontiac camera as look at things just really intensifying, rain almost kind of blowing sideways there, camera shifting around, and of course the trees just kind of getting tossed around a little bit. So intense storm right over Pontiac right now, even though it's out of that tornado warning zone. This is still what you're seeing. It doesn't have to be a tornado warned storm for it to be impactful there. So still want to be indoors, of course, and as far away from any kind of exterior wall as possible, because if we start to get some branches to fly, definitely don't want to be near any kind of windows there. So that is what it looks like in Pontiac as the storm activity is really picking up there. The strongest gusts likely passing through town right now. And we'll kind of reset things here, look back at radar. Again, we are wiped clear, of the tornado warnings. But we're still kind of watching that area of rotation that we had that was once tornado warned. Again, the storm as a whole doesn't look quite as well defined as it did just a moment ago in the area of interest, but we are going to continue to track that as that moves eventually into the far eastern side of Livingston County and eventually into the narrow corridor there of Ford County on the north side. So we will pop back up our velocity image, and you kind of see things maybe starting to get a little kind of packing itself together again. Again, these green colors start to see those pinks start to pop back on as well. So we are kind of watching right over the Sonneman area, and anywhere else, anywhere you can see a town name here on the screen, you need to be in your severe weather safe spot there, whether that's a basement, a shelter, anything. Sonneman, Griswold, even the Cullum area really needs to watch out as this thing is kind of moving directly southeast. So this could potentially be a northern Ford County problem at some point. Again, it's not tornado warned, but there's still some activity going on there that we need to keep in track of. I've got a couple of people texting me. I just got a report. I believe this is from our intern here that's working with us. 64-mile-an-hour gust at the Pontiac Airport was relayed on Twitter, and I think we saw every bit of that there on our Skycam just a moment ago as things were really looking like they were kind of blowing around there. So reportedly a 64-mile-an-hour gust at the airport. Also getting reports in, let's see, that's just outside of the area, so we'll hold off on that. Over there in Marshall County, I believe there's some shingles blown off and large branches blown down. So that was just outside of the area. That was not part of the storm that just moved on through here in our area. So again, lots to keep track of here, including this area of rotation over Sonneman. Again, we'll kind of see how this interacts with any kind of outflowing boundaries as we kind of just see where this boundary is pushing itself out. There's always some weird interactions that like to go on there with some of those boundaries. So we'll see if that enhances things or if they kind of stay a little on the flatter side as they are here at the moment. But you can still see there's some activity going on here. There might be maybe some uptick in that rotation at some point. But as mentioned, things apparently got really gusty there right over Pontiac just a moment ago. I'm trying to refresh the feed here. That was reported from the airport. In theory, I should be able to see that, but if it was a strong enough gust, it may have knocked out the reporting station briefly from anything. What we'll do here real fast, I'm going to pop up the regular radar that you are used to here, the reflectivity as it's called. And you can see things even though we've kept an eye on things up here to the north part of the area, maybe at some points kind of starting to get to that northwest side of the area. We've got one severe storm really starting to kind of hit the Peoria metro, and that could eventually be a problem there for western McLean and even northern Logan County at some point in the night. Again, if you're watching us on the stream, just kind of let us know what you're seeing and where you are. We are still on CBS because we do have a little bit of a thought that maybe this rotation is going to continue. The rotation that was once tornado warned as it moved through the central part of Livingston County, it is no longer warned, but that does not mean things can't really change there in a hurry. So we're just going to kind of keep an eye on this thing. It's enough to make me just kind of want to stay here. I don't want to hop off and all of a sudden things pick up again really quickly there. So we are just going to kind of watch that, a little bit of interest as we move ahead here and just kind of find any sort of information that's being reported to us. Again, any kind of things that you are seeing, we welcome that in the comments there on our live stream. And we are, of course, looking for some of that. We rely on you guys for anything that we can see. But, of course, stay safe. Do not go out there and actively try to find anything here because we want you to be safe first and foremost there. That is our priority. That's why we hop on here on our stream, on our TV. We want you guys to be safe. But if you are seeing anything, of course, just let us know what's going on. So area of interest is kind of passing right over Sonneman right now, starting to get to the east side of town. Of course, the radar is just a little bit behind from reality. So this is likely between Sonneman and Colum at the moment. Again, Colum, Charlotte, and Pella might be kind of next in line. And we're just kind of watching outflow from some of these other storms. Again, you can kind of just see this thin line that's popping up right here. Kind of that outflow. We'll kind of see how that interacts with this area of rotation that hasn't completely gone away yet, but has been enough there to take away the tornado warning as of now. And we have a lot of questions here in the chat as far as the evolution of this with time. Right now, all I can tell you is things are going to be a little noisy north of I-72 for the next couple of hours, as you just saw a moment ago. Severe thunderstorm warnings are right there over Peoria. So this will eventually become a problem for some of our northwestern counties before too terribly long. Again, storm right over Peoria. I'm going to look at Peoria real quick. We have access to their sky cams too. We're just going to kind of take a look because if something is in Peoria, it's eventually going to get here, and we kind of want to see what's going on. So we'll just turn on our Peoria camera real quickly. It'll take a moment for it to switch off of Pontiac, which it appears things have calmed down a little bit. So we're looking all across downtown Peoria there. It just kind of looks a little rainy at the moment. Trees are not looking like they're moving around too much. We'll just kind of explore around. We have multiple cameras there in Peoria that can maybe give us a little bit better of a look. So we'll just kind of hop around from one to the other. This one looks like it's just off from the river, looking towards town there. Again, obviously things coming down pretty good there as far as the rain is, but it does not appear that anything's too out of control here with this. So I'll kind of monitor that in the background, but we'll stay on top of our storms here in the area. Lots of severe thunderstorm warnings starting to pop up. Many of them appear to be pretty standard, around that 60-mile-an-hour gust range. But again, the reason we're kind of staying on here is just watching that area of circulation is just up there in eastern Livingston County. Again, as a whole, that storm looked a lot better than what it did, or that storm looked better than what it does right now. And I'll kind of explain what I mean. As this thing was kind of moving through Pontiac, you can just kind of see that little notch that was forming there. As we moved forward, it looked pretty good there for a moment. Now things are starting to fall apart just a little bit. But again, just kind of watching the outflow from these storms up here, kind of north of Iroquois County as they push south. Maybe there could be some more interaction going on. And we could see some increase there on the rotation. So we're just going to check back in real quick on that. And again, things are looking just a little flat there. So what I will do, since there is no immediate threat, if you can hear me back there still, Charlotte, what I'll probably do is resume regular programming on CBS. If you want to continue watching the coverage, we've got it here on our digital platforms. That would be our Facebooks, any one of the meteorologist Facebooks, whether it's me, Kevin, Adam, or Jacob. We have it on there. Our Twitter accounts have it all too. There's lots of places. Even the website has a link there to access the live stream. So no immediate tornado threat anymore. That's the main reason we hopped on CBS. So we're going to return things to normal programming here and continue coverage on our digital channels. So for anyone still on here on the stream, we're going to kind of continue to keep track of things here. I know it's just a little bit of a delay, but we're watching plenty of severe thunderstorm warnings that are out here at the moment. We're going to kind of continue to keep track of that. And plenty of gusty conditions out here. And that is what we are dealing with at the moment. So again, we are keeping track of that. We are transitioning out of our CBS coverage, so I apologize here for some of the pauses, but we are now on our digital platforms keeping track of severe weather as it is in the area. We are now off CBS, and we are on our live stream here, so we are going to monitor things exclusively on our digital platforms. So we will keep you up to date as that stuff continues. And give me just a moment just to switch things back now that we are kind of local here on our coverage. So we'll do that right there so I can kind of keep track of what you guys can see. And now we are back in business here. So I'll bring myself full. Again, we are on digital coverage only right now. We hopped on for that tornado warning that was over Livingston County for a little bit. Now just kind of more of a wind threat overall here. So let's just kind of take a look at some cameras that we can see. Pontiac looks like things have really cleared out there and have come down in intensity. We're not going to check in on Gibson City. There's probably not anything there yet, but we're probably seeing winds maybe pick up a little bit there. I know this is a very difficult camera to see anything going on at night, and I personally can't see too much going on. Probably going to have some lightning there in the distance before too long, but not really an issue throughout Ford County here at the moment, just kind of on the northern end where we're seeing some of those strongest winds. Kind of toss on our velocity here and just keep track what's going on here. Again, most of this is pretty standard stuff, 60-mile-an-hour winds. Hail, really not much of an issue at all. You're probably not going to see much of that here. Within some of these storms, it's almost completely wind-driven at this stage in the night. And continuing just to kind of check things on our feed with the National Weather Service as well. It appears there may have been a tornado in Henry, which is, of course, outside the area, but that may have taken place according to some comments there. So just on the edge of our area there, out there towards Henry, was where there may have been a tornado earlier. That's where things really started to ramp up there from the beginning, and that proceeded to move into the area and prompt a couple of tornado warnings there for just a brief period of time. Hopefully, we're kind of getting past that point in the night. Tornado threat was always somewhat low for much of this threat, but we knew if there was going to be anything at all, it was going to be on some of these northern counties, which we saw briefly there. But as mentioned, these things can look really good for a moment and kind of pulse back down, but that doesn't slam the door shut on them getting any better later on. I know a lot of people that might be kind of hopping on the stream here if they just stopped on or been on for a little bit. There is no immediate threats to some of our main areas like Champaign, Decatur, Springfield. Springfield, I wouldn't be worried about a thing at all here right now. It does not look like much is developing on the back end of that. That is going to affect you right now. A couple hours from now, that might be a different story, but we are going to kind of monitor mainly north of I-72 and I-74 here for our greatest severe weather chance. There could be some expansion, again, on the west side of this, but at the moment, we're just kind of dealing with what we have. That storm now passing out of Peoria, and this is very quickly going to become a Bloomington problem, and it looks like things are starting to put themselves together in such a way to where we might be getting kind of a pickup in some of the gusts here as they get ready to move into northwestern McLean County, and again, that'll be a Bloomington issue before too long. So that's what we're watching here at the moment. I'm going to put things full screen here for just a sec. I got to kind of catch my breath a little bit here and grab myself just a little bit of a drink so I can keep us going. So give me just one moment here. Okay, and just like that, we are back. Just need to take a quick little break there for just a moment just to kind of get our bearings straight again. If you are just now joining us, welcome on into the stream. Things are getting a little busy here across the northern part of the area with severe thunderstorm warnings kind of all around. We get to the point in the night sometimes where these warnings end up just becoming whole counties because they know it's windy and they don't really have time to kind of fine tune things. So they just kind of warn the whole county just out of an abundance of caution. So that's what you're seeing there in Ford County. But I would not be too surprised before too terribly long if we maybe potentially have a warning expanding out here into eventually the McLean County area on the west side of the county there. Again, eventually becoming a problem in Bloomington. But right now, anywhere from Lexington to Fairbury up to Colum there, that is where your strongest winds are likely moving on through. You may have seen earlier on the Pontiac camera, things were really breezing on through. And of course, fellow meteorologist Jacob Dickey is watching here in the chat too. He's interested to know what I am drinking. It is not 5-Hour Energy, believe it or not. It's good old-fashioned water cooler water there. So that's what's powering us through the night. Just needed to get a little bit going there to clear up the throat there. So that was a very burning question. I felt the need to answer there real quick. But watching some pretty gusty conditions up across the northern part of the area. Let's just kind of check in on some sky cam action, see if there's anything to be seen. Obviously not much there in Gibson City. Let's check up over in the Bloomington area, see if maybe starting to get a little bit of an uptick in the winds. Probably nothing just yet, as that storm is still going to take its time getting in. But that'll be the next place to watch. That'll be the next Skycam that's in vision of this thing. And we will check back on that when we are able to, when that storm eventually rolls on through. At the moment, as mentioned earlier, with that rotation, I'm just going to kind of check back in on that again. Did not appear that much was going on with it, and we've kind of lost our shape a little bit there. You can kind of see the evidence of it still with some of those greens and reds together, but again, does not appear to be much of a threat anymore. That was the main reason we kind of got things going here as quick as we did. So mainly just some gusty conditions, maybe close to just about 60 miles an hour is what we're seeing here at the moment. And what I'll do real quick, I know there's a lot of people that are curious. I'm just going to take a look at our latest data here and just kind of play out a future track for you just to kind of give a little guesstimate on what's going to happen. These future tracks have been hit or miss throughout the day. The most recent ones actually nailed what's happening right now pretty good. So that's a good reason to kind of follow them here. Let's get a little bit more of a down-to-the-ground local view. So this stuff looks like it's just a little... This model looks like it's just a little slow, but it's got things handled pretty well. Again, we'll just have to watch and see how this line evolves. I think we're moving a little faster than what maybe this thing might show, but things could be slowing down here a little bit. But regardless, you can kind of see this line may continue to kind of hold its strength a little bit throughout the night tonight. We could be talking about 2 or 3 a.m. Kind of had a feeling there for a while that this was going to kind of slow itself down around the 1 or 2 a.m. hour. Now, all of a sudden, we're kind of pivoting on that. Maybe this takes us a little deeper to the night. Not to say all of this will be severe, but we might see a storm or two that will keep 60-mile-an-hour gusts in there. As far as what's on the table, who could be in line for this, again, there's your run at future track. That could go all the way to maybe 4 in the morning tonight. That's when your severe thunderstorm watch is set to expire. So anywhere in the pink, kind of game on there for any sort of severe weather chances as we will kind of track things here through the night. It is about 10 minutes until 1 a.m., and things might just be getting started here in central Illinois as initially the severe thunderstorm watch started off just as Livingston County throughout much of the night tonight. That was the only county included, and eventually they had Ford and Iroquois join that. Now all of a sudden we're really starting to get down into the area. As mentioned, probably I-72 to the north are the places that have to worry, or the places that have to really pay attention, not necessarily worry, but pay attention to what's going on with the severe weather chances. South of 72, I think things should be pretty well weakening by the time they get that far, but time will ultimately tell on that. So we're kind of watching these storms that clearly, I think, have lost a little bit of their speed. Their strongest gusts there are not what they were, so obviously that is going to keep these things from being quite as fast. It's still labeled as about 50 miles an hour, so they've got some good pace to them. And hopefully they're kind of pushing their way through quickly so that those of you who are feeling it right now can have it go through real quick, hopefully with no kind of damage or anything like that. And then you can get on your merry way to bed there and get ready for the work week. So anywhere kind of behind this storm system, for the most part, I would say you are probably good for the night. So anyone kind of behind this now, things are going to quiet down. You've had your wind, you've had your rain, and things are likely to just kind of subside with time. So we will continue to keep an eye on that. I'm going to check it on Peoria again real quick. We've got maybe a few viewers up that direction that are kind of peeking in overnight tonight. So let's pop up our camera. I'll give you the full screen view since that's always just a bit more in detail. It's coming down in sheets there in Peoria, but overall does not look like anything's too windy from this vantage point. We'll check in on our east camera there in Peoria. And again, yep, just kind of looks like things are pretty rainy across that part of the area right now. But there's definitely reason to continue to watch things through the night tonight. Not necessarily for what we were seeing earlier with those tornado threats. I don't think that's going to be super common, but I don't want to write that off. That's exactly one of the main reasons why we're here. We want to kind of watch and see how some of these boundaries, how they could kind of affect some of these storms and see maybe the generation of some new storms as well. So that's kind of what we're paying attention to. This is more of a thing at this point that we kind of have to react to what we see as opposed to looking at any particular model there, because that's pretty much our best bet at this stage in the night. So we'll watch things, how they continue to evolve over time, and just kind of these small scale features. We'll be able to tell anything that might be happening as it does there. and that's kind of our best bet as far as anything. As far as any ability to kind of foresee what might be happening here in the future, we'll kind of continue to keep track of this line of storms as it dives on in. And as expected, we have that severe thunderstorm warning that has now moved into Logan and McLean counties that would eventually impact Lincoln, and definitely there the Bloomington area as well. So that is our newest warning to join the board. So we will be keeping close tabs on that. And just kind of checking through things here. Got a handful of people message me things, just making sure I'm getting any kind of information out there that is known. So just bear with me here for a moment. But yeah, as mentioned, things not likely to be super organized through the rest of the night, for lack of better terms. That's what I'll call it. We're going to have those individual storms that will probably be a little rambunctious and probably misbehave a little bit through the night. But any kind of widespread wind activity, like what you may have seen in Chicago earlier, if anybody kind of a little bit of a weather enthusiast may have been paying attention to things as they evolved through the night, may have been watching Chicagoland, they got hit by a pretty nice little line of very gusty conditions, and even had a tornado warning there in the downtown area for a moment. That's probably not what we're seeing anymore. We'll kind of just watch certain segments of this line as they move on through, just for individualized winds to really pick up. But as far as any kind of big bowing segment, again, that's not looking quite as likely here at this stage in the game. Tornado threats appears to be kind of on the lower side of things, but that was the original thought anyway, and we kind of saw that threat realize itself anyway, so we're not going to write that off at all here. Still watching here in the Peoria area. That storm is getting ready to kind of move on out of town, but just kind of watching what this looks like on that camera, because eventually that will be here with us, and we will be feeling similar conditions there. So again, here's the overview of everything. This line kind of filling itself in. There might be just kind of like a little bit of a weak region here between Bloomington, maybe even into Pontiac now, where things don't look quite as organized. As mentioned, some of these warnings are way out in advance of the storms. They're issued as long as 45 minutes in advance of when the storm will actually be there. So some of these warnings, again, may kind of be drawing a little bit of a broad zone there, but that's just kind of to be proactive as opposed to reactive. Things probably picking up in Bloomington here before too long. Might even be getting the leading edge of the gusts as they move on in. And let's just go ahead and check in on them there. The folks in Bloomington. Again, if you're on the stream here still, that's what we're exclusively on at this point. Just kind of let us know what you're seeing. We'll try to answer any kind of questions that you might have either. I'm kind of doing my best to answer any kind of location questions in the showing of the future track, in the showing of where the watch is, because we really don't know exactly what's going to become of this thing as we evolve in time throughout the night. But anywhere in the severe thunderstorm watch needs to continue to pay attention through the night. So talked about this storm getting ready to head on into Bloomington. Let's see the evidence right now on the sky cam, because things are certainly getting a little bit busy. So we'll pull that full. And you can see plenty of lightning in the distance, not quite windy just yet. But I would have to imagine at some point things are going to pick up there. And you kind of see when the lightning kind of flashes in the distance, you can kind of see some of the rugged cloud structure in the distance, kind of the leading edge of these storms as they get ready to head on in. That's kind of the only bet you have at seeing any kind of structure with the storm, is when that lightning obviously illuminates the sky there. And that is our best chance to see what is going on. So things looking pretty noisy in the distance in Bloomington. Right there in town, though, it's not too bad at this point. But you kind of start to see maybe a little bit of rain. That light pole there in the parking lot in the very bottom center of the screen, you can see plenty of rain falling from the light there, and obviously a light show in the distance. So this is our current situation, watching some gusty storms move into Bloomington here before too terribly long, and also just kind of looking up and down. Let's just go ahead and turn on lightning here real quick and just see how much we're dealing with. Obviously, that camera was enough evidence to tell us without seeing this, but they're not overly electric storms at all. This thing getting ready to enter the northwest part of McLean County definitely is putting on a light show as it exits the Peoria area. It's probably our most electric storm. The next most electric one is likely kind of passing just off to our north and east. Probably folks in Clifton, Watsika, and just general northwestern Iroquois County getting a little bit of a light show to the north. But I think there's just this little bit of a gap that's starting to form in our line, kind of around the Ford County area. So maybe things not quite so bad from a storm perspective, probably just a little windy in there, as the boundaries of these things still will pump out some gusty conditions. But overall, the storm threat doesn't look too bad here. Let's kind of reset things. It is just about 1 a.m. here on what is officially Monday morning now. But the weather does not rest, and neither do we. So we're going to watch this stuff as it kind of marches south, but still in the far northern part of our area. Really lost its steam as far as its speed. These things not moving quite as fast as what they were earlier, still moving between 40 and 50 miles an hour, which is a relatively speedy pace there. But compared to the 60-mile-an-hour movement we had, it's not quite so bad as what it once was. So watching Bloomington in the distance here on my Skycam, just on the other side of the camera. I'm just going to go ahead and toss on velocity, just kind of see what else going on here. And I believe we have the Lincoln radar accessed, and of course lots of disturbance with some of the wind turbines out there. So we'll kind of work through that. You can kind of see the bright greens. This is well up in the atmosphere, but that's enough to show you that there's still some pretty strong winds close to the surface. Easily going to see 60-mile-an-hour gusts there within some of these severe thunderstorm warnings. And that will make its way across McLean County, eventually into Logan County there, as per that new warning box. So that's really the main threat. Nothing too out of control with this. I will say the overall concern does not appear to be too high at the moment. That's not to say one storm might not kind of pick itself up and get itself moving there on the wind gusts, but at least at the moment, there does not appear to be anything too terribly out of control. But we'll definitely watch as this thing enters Bloomington, and we'll kind of see what we can see on our Skycam when that starts to take shape. Again, just getting ready to enter town there. And there'll be a little bit of show here for the moment. What I'll do, since we have access to it, sometimes I forget that we have the normal camera. Let's go ahead and look at that one and see if we're getting anything out ahead of our Bloomington camera. We'll see that in just a moment. I can kind of see some, believe that might be some low cloud cover there. You can kind of see at the top of the screen. So that's a little ominous looking, but nothing really to be too worried about. That's just that storm kind of pushing its way through right now. So that's the view from the normal camera. Again, plenty of lightning, trees still on the calmer side of things. So we will kind of anxiously watch our sky cams and see what happens as these storms move on in. And I'm just going to take a brief check here of any sort of reports that might have come in up to this point. I'm just kind of navigating our chat with the National Weather Service. They have plenty of people that send them stuff as well. So just kind of feeding off them. Got a Tazewell EMA that says nothing significant was seen in their area. Of course, that's outside of our viewing area, but not too far away. So that's worth noting a little bit. And that appears to be really it. So no real major reports just yet. The only thing that kind of jumped off the page to me was the power flashes we saw in Pontiac. I'd be curious to know if some people do not have power. I'm going to kind of consult my sources here and see if we can see any kind of numbers on the power outages that might be present in the area as some very windy storms pushed on through. According to the stuff I have access to, it does not appear there's any widespread outages in our area. Of course, this thing lags behind just a little bit. There's a couple thousand outages in the counties just to our north. So LaSalle County's got close to 2,400. Woodford has close to 600. Marshall County had about 2,500 out as well. So that's when those storms were a little more intense, probably not as bad as they moved through, and some pretty intense lightning, so much to the point where our Bloomington camera is trying to reestablish its connection there. That's probably going to happen a couple times as this storm really gets set to enter the main part of town there. And that was a really nice cloud to ground lightning strike you just saw on the right side of the screen there. And that was very what's the word I'm looking for? It's very satisfying to see there. It's kind of a classic look on the camera. So things likely to pick up here in just a moment in Bloomington. Kind of a slow approach into town there. But if anything, there's going to be some pretty heavy rain for a few folks out here and some gusty conditions temporarily. and plenty of lightning as well. So again, just make sure that you are inside, stay away from the windows there. I definitely don't want to be near the windows during any sort of lightning event. But things really ramping up on the Bloomington camera. And let's just look at radar once again here and see if there's any kind of activity we need to be made aware of. Kind of seeing a little bit of a, we'll call it a two-part, kind of just a hole in our system, I guess is what I'll call it, in the fact that we're kind of just watching two sides as opposed to the whole line. You kind of see things are a little weaker there in the northeastern McLean County area. Kind of got one little segment out here on the east side of the area and one little segment out here on the west side as well, which is kind of that calm gap in the middle. So we are just kind of watching as things become a little more scattered in nature, and that might be the theme that we continue with for the rest of the night. And we'll just kind of check in and see where this stuff is heading. Again, a lot of these warnings were issued well out ahead of some of these storms. So some of these boundaries may not be exact anymore. For example, we can get that to pop up here. This severe thunderstorm warning in Ford County actually continues till 1:45, and the one in Livingston, okay, so they're all set to about the same, 1:45 there. So we'll kind of watch that over the next 40-ish or so minutes, but things looking not quite as good as they once did. But probably the area of interest right now is out there in Bloomington, between Bloomington all the way out there to Hopedale, just outside of the area, as the thing's definitely getting ready to get a little windy here. Let's just pull up our velocity. You can still see some pretty bright colors getting ready to move on in there. So things about to get rather windy here before too long. Just kind of combing through to make sure we're not missing any sort of interesting features that might be going on within some of these storms. Again, kind of watching that broad rotation that's kind of kept itself alive a little bit. Maybe it's evolved a little bit in time and kind of moved up and down this line, but just kind of watching. Anytime you start to see those contrasting greens and reds, it's worth watching. That doesn't look like anything immediate, but we are also very far away from any kind of radar. So that is well up in the storm and not exactly reflective of what's happening at the ground. But let's see here. Again, things looking very still on Bloomington. In fact, I think the reason it looks still is because the camera keeps freezing there with the storm kind of messing with our connection to it. Now things are moving out there, but still looks relatively calm, but that's about to change here very, very quickly as this line gets ready to push itself through. So it is now 6 minutes past 1 in the morning, and our storm threat continues here deep into this Sunday night / early Monday morning. And maybe a few folks out here, again, just talking about the folks that might be up late in the night. Maybe your weather radio or your weather app kind of woke you up here with some of these warnings. We're just tracking some pretty standard stuff here at the moment, some 60-mile-an-hour gusts. Not really looking at much in the way of hail, but we are just kind of watching to see how these storms interact over time. And we'll see if they really do a whole lot as they continue to push south. Again, kind of splitting the gap on our warnings here. And I kind of figured at some point you could see that warning across Ford County has completely been removed. So we're kind of dealing with a two-part system here and not just one uniform line like it was at one stage in the game here. So it looks like Livingston County is now in good shape. Ford County, you kind of split the gap. I don't know if you really ended up seeing too much there, aside from maybe just those of you in the far northern part of the county there between Livingston and Iroquois. I think you may have dodged things for the most part. Obviously, I have to wait till the line gets through to officially declare that. But I would say places in northern Livingston, you're probably good with the severe weather threat here, as once this stuff pushes on through, it'll kind of eat away at the instability that we have and probably will not cause many more problems for the rest of the night. But you felt the heat and the humidity today. It was darn near unbearable. It was not fun. And that's exactly why we have just such robust storms tonight. We talked about how heavy it was going to rain and just the strong winds that we saw. That's all because of the of the environment that we had in play, where things were really, just really nasty. The moist and warm environment definitely making a little bit of a mess here, and we are now able to just kind of sit back and watch the Bloomington camera as things really start to ramp up. And again, if you're in the Bloomington normal area, just kind of sit tight here for a little bit. Make sure you're just away from the windows and just kind of sit this one out. Things are going to get a little windy for a while, plenty of rain. One good thing about this setup is that there's not really too much hail associated with this at all. So don't have to worry too much about any kind of big time hail threat. Most of these reports have been kind of like nickel sized or even smaller. So that really has not been much of a factor in any of this at all, which is, of course, a very welcome thing. Of course, the winds are going to make their impact felt regardless. But anytime you don't have to deal with the hail, that's good. I want to bring my stuff on screen here real quick. Maybe you can kind of see the rain. I'm just going to point out here real quick, then I'll bring it full screen. Just look at that little light pole there when I bring things back full screen. Just kind of look at how the wind is just tossing that rain around there as things are coming down in buckets now, and the wind is starting to play into this as well. And it's coming down very hard there in Bloomington. So as mentioned, just kind of sit tight and kind of just ride this one out inside for a little bit as the rain is coming down very hard and the wind is starting to pick up as well. So that storm officially moving through town there. We're just going to kind of take a peek on the other side of the Bloomington normal area there. Let's pop up our normal camera real quick, see what's happening there. And things relatively calm on this one. It's a little surprising that there's not a lot happening there. So we're just going to go back to our Bloomington camera. You see maybe trees blowing a little bit, but the Bloomington one kind of stealing the show here. Yeah. Oh man, we kind of missed the big time increase in the intensity there. You can see the rain just making it hard to see what's going on the sky cam. Just buckle up and gonna have to ride this one out here as the wind is starting to breeze on through. Again, this is severe thunderstorm warning moving through the area, but these are just one of those storms that hopefully is a little more bark than bites. Hopefully things are just rainy and windy and we don't see any kind of damage as a result of this. Hopefully that's what we're heading towards with this storm. So we're just going to kind of watch that for a little bit, and I'll continue to peek at radar over here on my other monitor to make sure we're not missing anything we need to be aware of. And actually, watch this for just a moment. Things probably also getting a little windy in Iroquois County right now as the storm's moving on through. We'll look at that in just a moment, but it's kind of hard to look away from this Bloomington camera. This is what you could expect the rest of the night if you get warned for a severe thunderstorm. This is exactly what you'll see on the inside. Things really picked up as far as the rain is concerned. And that's what I said, with all the moisture, all the heat in the air today, this is the atmosphere's way of kind of just hitting the reset button. It's way of kind of putting things back to normal. All that moisture's got to go somewhere, and it's going right back into the ground after being lifted up into these storms. It is now being completely dropped back down to the earth there. And Bloomington definitely feeling the wrath of this one here late on this Sunday night / early on this Monday morning. So we'll take our eyes off Bloomington for just a moment and just look at radar here again. Again, that's probably the main storm of the area right now, without a doubt, mainly because this one up here in Iroquois County, while it is also looking equally good, it's soon to move out here. What I'll do real fast, I just want to kind of take a look. This storm appears where things have been a little interesting throughout the night. So just kind of watching this little broad area where we still see some contrasting colors there. Nothing immediately looming, but to further conclude that, let's just move this in time and see if we notice anything going on here. And it's been holding itself together a little bit. Looks like things kind of got interesting there for just a split second, or at least radar sure made it look like it. So we'll just kind of watch this this area right in here where some of those colors are coming together a little bit. You can kind of see maybe just a little bit of a brighter red, some of that brighter green. So we'll watch. Hopefully that just kind of pushes itself out of here. If it has any ideas of doing anything, hopefully it decides to do it when it is out of Iroquois County. Hopefully it doesn't decide to do it at all. That would be great for everyone. And we're going to go back to Bloomington real quick because I cannot resist looking at it. Look at that. That's crazy. I mean, I almost can't even see what's going on there. It's raining so hard. I'm just going to bring it full screen just so you can enjoy it there in its fullest form. Again, this is a standard severe thunderstorm. This is 60-mile-an-hour gusts, but the rain is just unbelievable on this thing. This is about as heavy of a downpour as you could ask for. And it's just nice that we're keeping connection on this camera because things are dialed up here. Bloomington getting rocked right now. And hopefully you are okay where you are, because I don't know if our camera's okay where it is. It is just getting rocked around right now. And again, I'm just going to look and see if there's anything happening on the normal camera. Just kind of get a view on the other side of town. Yeah, it's raining. It's a little windy there, but not near as bad as the southern end of the area there. So we're not gonna watch that one for too long, because the Bloomington one kind of stealing the show right now. Very, very rainy. Probably a bit windy in there. No doubt windy in there, as evidenced by what we can see. And this will eventually become a problem for potentially maybe some of us here in Champaign County at some points. It's not any kind of immediate threat, but we'll just kind of have to watch as these storms make their way this direction. So potentially Farmer City, parts of Monticello, kind of the DeWitt and Piatt County areas. We're going to have to be the ones that are under the watch for this, because this cluster here looks pretty good. And there's another storm in the back end of this one in Peoria again that's kind of formed over the top of it. So Peoria probably has gotten a bunch of rain. Peoria's probably gotten a bunch of rain here in the last hour or so. And hopefully there's no flash flood concerns there, but definitely wouldn't be surprised if there's quite a bit of rain piling up there in a hurry. Once again, just kind of reset things here and take a look at the area as a whole. All the action confined to the I-74 corridor at the moment. It's not to say things might not continue here later on to the night. I'm going to see if we've got some new data to share with some of these rapidly refreshing models. We'll see if the midnight version of this model is out, and it's kind of still loading itself in there. So we'll look at that as that comes on in. Overall, I don't think the threat's going to be too bad for too terribly long here. I'm hoping to say the worst of it has probably come and gone with that initial wave, but it's this one storm here that's probably going to command the most attention as far as how does it progress over time. Does it come down in intensity, or does it kind of maintain where it's at? Because if it maintains where it's at, that's what you're going to see. You're not going to see hardly anything because it's raining so hard and still very windy in Bloomington, as things are very intense there in town. And that is exactly what it feels like to be inside of a severe thunderstorm. Again, we talk about, baseline stuff, 60-mile-an-hour gusts, maybe quarter-size hail. In this case, it's just the wind, but that's what it looks like inside a severe thunderstorm. So that's why these things get warned for this exact reason. That is not fun to be outside in. It's a good thing it's the night, so that way hopefully nobody's out doing anything here, especially on a Sunday night. But I am not one to judge. If you want to be out on a Sunday night, go for it. Just be sure that you are aware of the weather and you don't catch yourself outside in this, because that is not how I would envision spending a Sunday night. All right, let's look at the radar again. Warning lifted off of Iroquois County. So hopefully that business is taking care of itself there. I won't have to worry too much about that one anymore. So just down to one lone warning in the area. And that would be the one technically in Logan and McLean County, although the storm itself is exclusively in McLean County. And putting quite the beat down on Bloomington and the normal area as well. Soon to head into Randolph Downs, heading down I-74 to potentially Leroy. See if it catches the east side of that. But yeah, this thing might kind of just ride directly down I-74. So I'm just kind of looking down the path of that, Farmer City, even into parts of northwestern Champaign County. Maybe it's rolling through Mahomet at some point, but that is still a ways off. Maybe by a little less than an hour or so, we'll see that. But yes, down to one severe thunderstorm warning, which we will continue to keep track of. Again, I'm going to take a brief pause here for just a moment. Take a brief pause here for just a moment just to grab a little bit of a drink here and grab my breath. And I will be back on the microphone very shortly. Okay, we are back in business, and I want to take a look at a couple things here. While everyone's here, things are obviously very rambunctious in the Bloomington Normal area right now. That's important. We're going to keep an eye on that. But just briefly, while I kind of have a little bit of time to do so here, while things are relatively calm, I'm just going to take a look at a few things. So I want to talk a little bit about tomorrow night, too. Technically, Monday night is what we'll call it, just to keep any kind of time confusion out there. Our Storm Prediction Center outlook looks worse than what it did for tonight's risk. You can see that enhanced risk will affect pretty much the areas we're seeing get the storms right now. This will be Monday night again. We'll see a pretty impressive complex of storms move on through. I'm going to kind of just look at this real quickly because there's a lot of details in this forecast that'll have to be figured out during the day Monday. But just kind of bring some awareness to the folks who might not be enjoying the weather out there tonight. There's going to be another deal with this again tomorrow. We'll watch and see how this plays out overnight, but I want to get to what could happen tomorrow. And things can get pretty intense pretty quick tomorrow. We're talking about not just one complex of storms that could be forming around 5 or 6 o'clock there. I think it's going to be very windy along that line. And we'll see kind of the same threat that we just saw here tonight, where there might be some embedded circulations within that first line. Again, we're talking 5 or 6 o'clock tomorrow. So this is kind of a busy time of the afternoon and evening. That wave moves on through. And all of a sudden you have another line starting to take shape behind it. Probably looking at mainly a wind threat with that. And again, we talked about how this could bring gusts of 75 miles an hour last check. That's kind of the way that things are looking tomorrow. And look at the clock here. I talked about things starting at maybe 5 or 6 p.m. That's 5 a.m. Tuesday morning. This could be a 12-hour long thing where somebody is seeing something throughout the duration. And this is the latest forecast. This was given earlier in the night. So we'll have to refine the details as we move ahead into Monday. But talked about 75 mile an hour gusts possible there where you see the purple. And it goes down by 5 miles an hour as you change colors there. But things are going to be little interesting to watch there tomorrow. Those gusts could be widespread. We'll see how how this complex handles itself. But if you have widespread gusts like that, we've seen that in the past, what that can do. These widespread wind events cause the most area-wide damage. Tornadoes do the most intense damage, but they do it over a very localized area. These widespread wind events do a little less damage to a lot of people. So that'll be the big thing to watch. Also, as mentioned, there will be a tornado threat as well. Although and this is out of date here, this would be, of course, we're on day 1 now, so I got to make sure I'm on that. The numbers are going to be in the wrong place here because this was the template for today, which today is now considered Monday, of course. So ignore the numbers on there. I'm just going to kind of verbally mention the tornado threat in the yellow could be around a 4 since we're kind of on the edge of that 3 and 4 line. So kind of just roughly a 4 in those counties highlighted in yellow. In the green, just kind of a broad 2 to 3 range in there. It just kind of depends on how things interact within that line of storms as they move on in. And it's not entirely certain exactly where the greatest threats are going to lie as far as you saw the first round, you saw the second round. First round's probably going to bring a better tornado threat. Second round's probably going to just be exclusively winds, but we'll kind of see how intense that second round could be. That first round might be the one that brings you your tornado threat and your highest gust threat, but we'll kind of worry about that as we get ahead in time. So the wind threat's there. That's going to be the biggest thing. Tornado threat's going to be there. That won't be as long-lived, but the flash flooding threat is going to be there as well. I'm just going to bring up one model real quick, and then we'll get right back to the coverage we're doing right now since there are still severe storms in the air. I just wanted to bring this up real quickly to, like I said, anybody that may have been caught off guard by this stuff tonight, don't get caught off guard by this stuff tomorrow night because it could potentially be on a much higher scale. So let's just look at the future track rainfall totals for the rapidly refreshing model. Look at that. You could have 3 to maybe 4 inches within that. Those storms are just going to form right over the top of each other. One big rainy line moves through, and then another big rainy line moves through again. Totals could pile up very, very quickly. Don't want to say it'll be like this on a widespread scale, but it could. It could be like that on a local scale for sure, where the flash flooding It'll definitely be a problem. So not just the winds, the tornado threat's going to be there. It won't last the whole night like the wind threat will, and the flooding threat will. So that is a concern heading into tomorrow. Okay, just checking back up on radar here. Things are looking fine for the most part. Looking just a little bit windy there as we go through Bloomington. If that storm is every bit still as strong as what it was when it went through Bloomington there, this thing's going to probably keep a warning on it. But overall, things don't look as good as what they once did. I've said that a lot tonight, but that's just been the truth with some of these. As this thing moved into Bloomington, you can kind of see just kind of that straight edge there, maybe just a little bit of a curve to it where you can start to see things become a little bit windy. It's possible these things are starting to maybe guess themselves out just a little bit. That doesn't look too bad, but it looked better earlier there. So we'll have to watch how this warning is handled moving forward. This warning set to expire at 1:45. Looks like the storm's going to kind of outrun that warning box, so we'll kind of see how they handle that here in just a moment. We'll see if things continue. Hopefully we can kind of relax here on the severe storm threat because, as mentioned, tomorrow will be a little bit of a longer day, potentially for some of us, a longer night, I should say. Most of that happening after the afternoon has taken place. And just one thing I'll show you again here to brighten up your day. Sarcastic, of course. You're not going to like this. Heat index. Boom. Talked about the heat and humidity today. Look at tomorrow. 115 on your heat index. That's a lot of heat. That's a lot of humidity. And that is a very ripe environment for storms to form in. And one thing I'll show you too, look how sharply temperatures cool off. That is the energy being sucked into these storms and just being rushed right out in the form of rain and wind. We are going to completely change the air mass here and completely cool things down. So that heat and humidity forms the storms. The storms reset everything here at the ground. And it'll relieve us of the heat, but it could do so in a very loud fashion. So that's kind of the concern heading into tomorrow. I'm going to keep things on radar here real quick. I just got a couple of things to tidy up here at my station. So I'll be just a moment here. We'll keep things on radar. And I will leave that here for just a moment. Okay, we are back in business here, tracking a few, I shouldn't say a few, we're tracking a severe thunderstorm warning deep into this Sunday night / Monday morning. That's the lone storm that we have, still packing a little bit of a punch here this evening. And just kind of looking at the overall trends moving forward here. Again, things look a little weaker than they did earlier in the game. Not quite as concerned now as what we would have been there earlier, where we had those tornado warnings popping into the picture. But we want to kind of stay tuned here to see if any kind of funny business goes down as we get later on into the night. And we will stay on top of things. One thing to continue to watch is just kind of the back end of this setup here. Again, mentioned earlier how Peoria kind of got like a little bit of a round 2 in there. That could possibly be something that continues the threat over the same area that we just saw. So kind of the western McLean County area is something that we could watch that once again deliver quite a bit of rain to. So we'll kind of see this western side of the line is probably the main thing to watch right now. Everything else has either traveled too far east or just doesn't look fantastic. I'm going to kind of look at some of my tools in the background here and just kind of see how much instability we're still working with at this point in the night. And there's still a decent amount out there, but there's just so much with it being nighttime. Obviously, that instability is a lot more difficultly tapped into. So threat isn't super high, but there's still enough happening to where we will. And there you go. I mean, that's exactly why we stick around here, because there is, in fact, a tornado warning just off to our northwest now. This one is just around the, this will be in eastern Fulton County and west central Tazewell County. So there is a new tornado warning up. It's outside the area, but that's why we kind of stick around here and watch these things, because this is another warning that has popped into the picture, and we will need to watch this as it potentially moves into the area. So we're going to go ahead and pop up our velocity here, and we're going to check in and see what we can see on that. Kind of liked it better there on the base velocity. You can kind of see just kind of an area of broad rotation in there. Kind of looks a little better on reflectivity, honestly, when you look and see kind of just, again, that notch starting to form there, where there could be some rotation going down inside of that. So that is all of a sudden the new thing to pay attention to. Yes, there's a severe thunderstorm warning still across counties in our area, but all of a sudden this tornado warning is kind of trumping those a little bit and taking a little bit of control. So that is just off to our northwest. We will watch this one. I can mention how the tornado threat should gradually diminish into the night, but also I've mentioned several times, these things will look really good for a moment, then look really bad, and vice versa. And here it is, looking like it's in decent shape. I'm going to kind of just look at how this has evolved over the last several minutes. And you can kind of see some broad contrast in there. Very easily could be something going on right there in that warning zone. Nothing that jumps off the page, but certainly the way that storm's kind of interacting, there's probably a little something going on within it to prompt that tornado warning here. Let's look on some of the other things that I have here for any kind of further details on what's going on with that rotation that is in the Tazewell County area, kind of the western Tazewell County region. So that's kind of why we stick around here, for reasons just like that. A new tornado warning has been declared here deep into the night. It's outside the area right now, but this thing will get awfully close to the Lincoln radar, so we'll be able to get a pretty good view of what's going on right there at the surface. You can just kind of see things merging together in such a way to where the winds have aligned, and we are seeing enough to prompt the tornado warning here. Kind of messing with things on the phone here to make sure we're still on top of what's happening. And does not look like there's tremendous rotation signatures on this storm. The structure of it on reflectivity looks good, but kind of the associated velocity patterns that you would expect don't look the best. That's not to discount what this thing could be capable of, but we'll kind of watch that with interest as we continue on to the night. This thing is marked for moving at 25 miles an hour, so it's a very slow mover here. So hopefully it kind of just pitters out a little bit and takes its sweet time getting out this direction, so that way it can kind of collapse on itself before we get to before it gets a little too close for comfort. Again, not overly impressed by what I'm seeing there with that storm. Anytime you see the red box, you got to respect the box there. Respect the polygon. So that is of note. We'll keep it in the back of our heads back there as we just watch it off to our northwest. And we'll see how that progresses in time. Still, lots of rain across McLean County. Probably not quite as bad on the winds anymore. But that story may change as this next round moves on through here before too terribly long. And I'm starting to see some people talk about Pontiac and Gibson City, saying the wind has really picked up in Gibson City. We can kind of see that storm, maybe, a little bit more of a mature storm moving through Gibson City. So why not? Let's take a look. Let's go to Gibson City here. Not the best sky cam for being able to see stuff. There's not a lot of light around it, but let's just look and see what we can see. And I unfortunately can't see too much in this one. There's just not a bunch of light. That lightning will help, though, if we can see it. A little bit of that, I believe that might be just a little bit of an illusion. I kind of thought that electric pole may have been swaying a little bit, but that is that's just the rain dripping down the screen, kind of distorting the image a little bit. But people saying power out in Gibson City, and the winds have started to pick up as well. There's definitely a better-looking storm in there right now, better looking compared to anything we've seen in the night. So we'll kind of watch that and kind of see the rain off that light pole there on the right side of your screen, right across the center on the right side of your screen. So, intensity dialed up a little bit there at Gibson City. And as a result, things have really kind of ticked up a little bit. But still sub-severe. That doesn't mean things can't be just a little rowdy out that direction. This line filling in a little bit better than what it was earlier. Obviously, it was pretty flat there for a minute, but now we're starting to see things maybe pick up some. So we'll have to watch and see how this plays out, as we definitely do not want to definitely don't want to sleep on anything that is starting to pick up a little bit. There's not a bunch for this stuff to work with. There is some elevated instability, as we call it, but how well it can be tapped into is always a little bit of a question here. But you're really starting to see things pick up there in Gibson City. So I appreciate the viewers that we have in the Ford County area for picking up on that there. That was kind of just something off to the side that wasn't really super evident until some people started giving us some notes about that there. So we'll watch the Gibson City area. Want to look in here at our tornado warning just off to our west as well. And just as I do so, it vanishes. It disappears. So, as mentioned, maybe things looked really good there for just a minute, but overall, when I peeked in on that thing, it did not look great. But as mentioned, the radar presentation of this, you see kind of that notch in there. That's where the rotation was probably starting at one point. It still looks pretty good on the reflectivity here, or your basic radar image, as you know it as. But on velocity, things just didn't look great. And you can kind of see something in there, but it never looked like much for the it never looked like much. So hopefully we're in the clear on that. But that was a pretty good example of just kind of showing you how things can pulse up and down throughout the night. Something can have you convinced that it's going to be pretty bad for a moment, just to have it change in a moment later. Keep an eye on Gibson City on the camera behind me. Overall, things are probably sub-severe in that region, but maybe 50-mile-an-hour gusts with some pretty heavy rain falling down as well. Let's check in on some power outage numbers here. That's not a bad idea. Got a few people chiming in there saying power is out in Gibson City, even seeing some in Bloomington. Again, some of our trackers do have some numbers. They're not widespread. There's just a handful in McLean County that are out at the moment, a handful in Livingston that are out. But this is not the most timely source to track those outages, as it is behind by several minutes there. So we'll see if that fills in over time. But any kind of windy conditions like this, you can expect the power to briefly be knocked out. Hopefully that doesn't stay a problem later on into the night. Regardless of the severe threat, how it evolves over time, this line is likely to hold its shape a little bit as it moves south and east. So we're probably going to get some form of rain and wind to some degree. whether that be 60-mile-an-hour gusts or maybe just 40-mile-an-hour gusts is still a little bit of a question. But this line showing evidence that it'll hold itself together long enough to maybe provide some rain to parts of the area as it moves closer to I-70, the I-74, I-72 exchange here in Champaign. And we kind of start talking about things south of 74 as opposed to north of it. That warning, the only warning in the area, is still set to expire at 1:45. So we'll see what happens when that one potentially disappears or expires. We'll see how they continue to warn things. I've got a few people saying it's still pouring in Bloomington, and I concur. I can tell it's definitely still coming down there pretty good. I'm curious to see real quick. We'll look at some rainfall totals over just the last few hours. I'm just curious to see if there's any kind of alarming accumulations here as this chart will slowly but surely load. Now it starts to populate in. So yeah, definitely the Bloomington normal area is the one that's gotten the most. We'll just drop a pin there in the brightest colors and about 1.5 inches there over the last, we'll say roughly 90 minutes or so. So not anything too overly concerning, but definitely quite a bit of rain in a short amount of time. And here is our setup. Kind of peek in on some winds here once again. Just kind of see if there's anything going on that's worth noting. You can kind of just see some little interactions here and there, but nothing overly alarming here for the most part. Some still pretty strong wind signatures, a little high in the atmosphere, but not very high relative to much of the time when we see these velocity readings, because the Lincoln radar is not too far away. So when this is about as close to the surface as you can typically get. So bright greens, indicative of 60 to 65-ish mile-an-hour gusts just above the surface. So that will likely continue to be a little bit of a factor in everything moving forward. But as mentioned, Bloomington, seeing the rain and seeing the lightning as well. So overall, the level of concern isn't too high right now. But again, the slight worry is that we'll see maybe this line as some more storms kind of pop up, kind of see them crash into each other and briefly provide some rotation, as we've seen on a couple of different occasions now. But hopefully that threat's starting to go away. That's mainly about the only way you're seeing that is when these storms kind of collide paths and their winds kind of chase each other around for just a moment. So we'll see the rain start for some of us here along I-72 at some point. Probably starting to see some lightning in Champaign pretty soon. And folks up in Mahomet, Fisher, maybe in the Rantoul region, Farmer City, probably getting in on that action before too terribly long. But nothing just yet as far as impacts, no winds, no heavy rains in the Champaign area, the Champaign County area, I would say. So just going to kind of watch and see about 3 minutes away from this warning scheduled to expire. We'll see what happens with that. Again, we won't completely step away from things here, but if that warning goes out, I think we might just kind of take a short break and mute the microphone, just kind of watch this stuff evolve and just kind of watch things off to the side, because not too much to point out here with these storms other than the fact that they have definitely maintained their strength, if not ticked up just a little bit. So we will kind of watch and see how this is handled. I wouldn't be too shocked if this thing on the far west side of this line, if that one maybe continues to stay severe, because that one still looks pretty solid. We'll see how they handle it here within a couple of minutes and probably go from there. But plenty of heavy rain, probably some gusty conditions, maybe some brief outages going on along this line. But good to see that's calmed down some, because it was pretty wicked there for just a little bit. There were warnings up and down that line, a tornado warning embedded in there at one point just outside the Pontiac area. right outside, I believe it was Sonneman was where that rotation was. It's most prominent. But now things much, much calmer, and thankfully so. So if you're still up with us here, we are effectively staying up here with you tonight. It's a Sunday night. Many of us probably getting ready for work tomorrow, but there's a few of us with some odd shifts, myself included, where Monday can be an off day sometimes. So we are good to go here. We're just going to stay up and hang out with the storms. Hopefully they behave and we don't have to tell them what to do, but we will be here no matter what as we continue to track this line tonight. Again, this will end up being round one, or I should say chance one of severe weather. We will have another risk again tomorrow night. One probably a little higher impacts possible. And we'll likely have to do this all over again tomorrow night, starting from up this direction as well. If you've seen the forecast the last couple of days and nights, it's the risk has been all the way up here in northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. There's a front that's going to try to push through soon, but it's going to take quite a bit of time as it tries to get on through. And that will bring the opportunity for storms last night, bringing it for it tonight. I should be careful with my wording. Brought some storm chances Saturday night, bringing them here now Sunday night, and we'll bring again in there Monday night as well, because my sense of time is very diluted right now as we are kind of in that limbo mode where is it Monday? Is it Sunday? I don't really know what you call it. As you can see, the warnings have now dropped. Let me peek in here and see if there's any kind of discussion as to any kind of further issuings of warnings. It does not appear there's anything in the talks at the moment. I do want to relay just a couple of things that have been reported. There was indeed quarter-size hail reported from Normal as that line came through. So quarter-size hail, probably the biggest that we have seen here. There was a 53-mile-an-hour thunderstorm gust in Towanda. And there was also a 48-mile-an-hour gust at the Central Airport there in McLean County. So kind of 50 to 55-mile-an-hour gusts was what we saw at the worst. So those are some of the reports coming in from McLean County as that moved on in. Also, just some reports from around Central Illinois. There was some tree limbs blown down onto power lines in Washburn. That's be in Woodford County. That happened around midnight, so that was quite a while ago as those storms were kind of arcing their way in. But yes, we are warning free now. Doesn't guarantee we're going to stay that way. In fact, let's just look at the latest and greatest on our future track. A model that refreshes every hour, just about 5-ish minutes after the hour. So this would have been the 1 o'clock run. We'll kind of watch and see how this thing handles things. And you can see probably not too much activity going on for the rest of the night. I could see some pulses up and down with time, but the overall level of concern is lower. The only thing I'd really keep an eye out for is just kind of this thing on the western flank. I might be diving into Logan County soon. We'll get a really good view of that as that will pass right over the radar there in Lincoln. So it looks like there's plenty of rain in there. Lightning count, very strong. The lightning is strong with this one. And definitely our most put together storm at the moment. That is probably making quite the mess in Delavan right now. Maybe this thing catches Bloomington Normal area on the south end again, so maybe some more rain heading into McLean County, which apparently is the rain magnet tonight. And maybe some thunder starting to be heard here in Champaign County. You can see that one lightning bolt just east of Mahomet. So maybe things eventually picking up here in Champaign before too terribly long. But as a whole, things staying sub-severe. Gusts maybe around 40, maybe up to 50 miles an hour. Plenty of heavy rain. But the only storm I would say worth kind of paying close attention to is that one just north of Logan County right now. That'd be heading into the Lincoln area at some point, down 155 there. But yes, officially warning free at the moment. We'll kind of see how that evolves with time, if it does at all. But here we are, staying up late on this Sunday night / Monday morning, where we are seeing plenty of storm activity, or we did at one point. We had some tornado warnings that have come and gone, and now just dealing with some rain and some lightning. Let's just kind of take a look at some sky cams. Let's just take a little tour here. Bloomington, things have calmed down quite a bit. Looks like Gibson City, though. Plenty of lightning in there. Rain's still coming down at a pretty good clip. Chelsea says starting to get a little rough in Clinton, very loud and very windy as that line of storms moves on through. These are the kind of storms, much of the day today, there wasn't really much wind going on, so things are really calm here. Then these storms move through, and it goes from 0 to 100 real quick. So that's kind of the nature of some of this here. As we look on in Gibson City. And we are starting to get a few what are called special weather statements. Essentially, a severe thunderstorm warning for storms that are just below severe thunderstorm warning criteria. Those will not show up on the radar, but I can give you a pretty good guess as to what's going on. They put that statement on this one, getting ready to dive into Logan County. Gusts of around 55 miles an hour possible within that. Hail, not really much of a threat in there, but strong winds will be plenty once again in the southwest side of McLean County and on the north half of Logan County. So just a step below the severe thunderstorm warning criteria is what we are seeing. So it is 10 minutes until 2 a.m. Things are relatively tame. Don't want to say they're tame because it's obviously very windy, very rainy in several places here. But just as far as the severe weather risk goes, things are relatively tame compared to what they were. What we'll probably do here, I'm kind of getting on the edge of Adam eventually coming in here. His morning shift starts rather early. Lots of work needs to be done in the background before those morning shows. So he'll be in here before too terribly long. Kind of transition things. Might even decide just kind of wrap up this stream because the threat really isn't there for anything crazy anymore. Might just be the kind of thing where we kind of keep things quiet and hop on if need be. But yes, the severe weather risk is not there at the moment. Might be a little activity there in Logan and McLean County, but do not foresee too much intense storm activity going down here for the remainder of the night, aside from just one thing that may pulse up briefly. And that is kind of where we are here at the moment. So I think what I'll do is I'll just kind of let you guys keep an eye on the radar here. I'm going to take care of a few things in the background. Of course, keep an eye on some stuff. We'll just kind of watch the radar loop for a little bit and see how things play out.